Good morning. We're here with Mr. Brown for the Veterans History Project. It's July 19th, 2017. Could you state your full name with middle initial for the record for us?
Thomas A. Brown,
And what was your date of birth?
13th July 25,
And where were you born?
Smith Falls, Ontario, Canada.
Okay. And your parents, were they native to Canada, or did they immigrate from somewhere else?
They're natives of Canada.
Okay. When did your family or you move to the United States?
1928.
Okay, so you were pretty young when they decided to make the move. All right. Let's just kind of set the stage. Give me an idea of where were you living in the States around the time of Pearl Harbor?
Marcellus, New York.
Okay. And where this interview happens to be taking place in Syracuse, New York. Marcellus is west of here, not very far for the listeners. And what were you doing at the time of Pearl Harbor? Tell us, what was going on in your life, and then we'll take it from
When
there.
Pearl Harbor was hit, I was in Syracuse General Hospital from a head-on collision with my Model A Ford Roadster.
So were you in pretty bad shape, or?
Yeah, well, I had cracked ribs and cracked collarbone and a few cuts and bruises.
Would you collide with another car, or was it?
Well, yeah, head-on collision with a 35 Ford.
Oh boy, that hurt. And what were you doing at that time? Did you have a job? Were you working at? I think you said you were working in the farm. Or?
Yeah, I was working on the farm. I was still going to school, and I've been on the farm all my life up till then.
Yeah. Okay, so as a farmer, you had the option of the deferment because we needed farmers to stay and produce food. But tell us about your decision to enlist, and why did you do that versus just stay here?
Well, I worked at a home on our farm until I left school in May of 42 or 41. 41. I started, or 42, I think. I left school and then went to work for my folks on the farm, and then once the war hit, a lot of my friends were leaving, but I had that farm deferment and stayed in the farm. But then I sort of got tired of farming, and I went picking apples at Bake's apple orchards and that, riding motorcycles and having sort of a good time. And I decided one day that a buddy of mine, we both decided we go down and enlist in the Navy, and we went down there. They took me as the Navy, and they said they took him for Army, and we went through the physicals and went from there. And then that was just before Christmas of 44, or 43. Yeah, because I went in and they told us to go home after the physicals and report back after New Year's. And I think it was January of 6th or 7th of 44 that we went down and got inducted and got shipped to Sampson Naval Base near Geneva, New York.
Okay. I forgot to ask you, did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, one brother, one sister.
Okay. And during the war, did your other brother, he stayed home, or did
He was a farmer, true and blue, and
he stayed on the farm?
he didn't like the idea of war to begin with, and so he stayed on the farm for years.
Okay, so you enlisted, but tell us your departure from home, what your father or mother had to say when you were getting ready to take off.
Well, my mother didn't say too much, but my dad, he told me that he says, well, when when I left there and went to training, and just goodbye and that, because I headed down to Sampson boot camp, and but I ended up, after 3 weeks there, I ended up coming back home for weekends. It was only 30-minute, 40-minute drive.
And Sampson's in what city?
Near Geneva, New
Geneva,
York,
yeah.
Seneca Falls. And I went in for a final physical just before was coming out of boot camp, and I had a little piece of my finger was puffing up and with a pus coming out of it. The doctor seen that. Next thing I knew, I was in the hospital and didn't have nothing to do there except sit around waiting. A Marine who had just come back from Guadalcanal says, "What are you doing? Where you live?" And I says, "Right near Marcellus, New York, 35 miles from here." He says, "You going home for the weekend?" I said, "No, I ain't going no place. How do we go get home?" And I can't get out of here. Sure, I asked a head nurse, "You go home for the weekend." So I did, walked out, they took the bus to the main gate, stuck up my thumb. Less than an hour later, I was in Marcellus, called my dad, he come down, picked me up, about 2 miles from Marcellus. And in the morning, Monday morning, a nurse had told me, be back about 9. I said, "Well, I'm going to be hitchhiking. Well, if I can't make it." She said, "Well, as long as you're here by 11, 12 o'clock, don't worry about it." So I did. I get back there, stuck up my thumb, got a ride right to the front gate of Sampson and bust back in, and did that for 3 weeks. And then they operated on me and put a big bandage on my finger, so I come home from there for the next week. I looked like a wounded warrior. And had that weekend and went back, and then got discharged, got transferred to go to Norfolk, Virginia. And so.
All right, so and once you're in Norfolk, what did they had you doing there?
Well, we were assembling our crew for a ship, and we just more or less not much training and little gunnery practice now and then, but there wasn't too much training for it. Most of the time is new guys coming in and a few sessions on it, and went aboard the battleship New Yorker for 1 day for gunnery practice on that, and all I done there was stood underneath the 5-inch or 12-inch guns, listening to them fire. And
did they give you any ear protection back then?
No.
Okay.
No. In fact, I met a friend of mine. The only guy I seen in 3 years, almost 3 years in the Navy, was a friend of mine that lived just about half a mile from us, and he was on a single action gun firing in practice.
Okay.
Both of us survived.
So this is roughly the winter of 44, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And have you been assigned a specific ship yet?
No. Well, yeah, we've had, but we really didn't know much about it. We just mostly was there for the training and getting ready for it.
Right.
And I don't remember ever really telling us what it was going to be.
Yeah. What did you guys do to keep busy at night? Did they give you any free time to?
Oh yeah, we could get weekends in that, and nights you could go off on base, but back then we had not much money when they was getting, I forget what it was, but not much pay. And of course Norfolk had signs, sailors' dogs, keep off the grass.
Oh boy.
And that stayed in effect for a good many years.
And Norfolk to this day is quite the town. It's a big port for the Navy. Okay. All right, so at what point did you get assigned a specific ship, and what was the name of that ship?
USS Ault, destroyer DD-698.
All right, and I'll read a couple things, facts into the record here. It says it was commissioned officially on the 31st of May, 1944.
Right.
It's an Allen Sumner class destroyer. Displacement 3,218 tons. Length 376 feet. Beam 41 feet. Speed is rated at 36.5 knots. Range 3,300 miles. Carried about 336 men. Armaments 6 by 5 inch 38 caliber DP guns, 12 by 40 millimeter AA gun, 11 by 20 millimeter AA. That's anti-aircraft, I assume?
Yeah.
AA. 10 21 inch torpedo tubes. Okay.
Yeah.
So that gives you a rough idea of what the Ault was all about. But tell us from your perspective about what your thoughts were when you first saw this magnificent, man, it was a brand new ship at the time, and you're not too far away from the farm at that point, right?
No, not too long. It was probably a couple of months. And it was a beautiful looking ship, but it was a little miniature ship compared to the U.S. Missouri, which was right alongside us.
Oh, so you got to see the big Mo.
Yeah, and that's where she was commissioned. And then, of course, we left there for shakedown cruise and then come back in from Bermuda. And we got a week's leave to come home. And, well, because our secondary battle gun, the big 5-inch 38, training would fire into our structure of our bridge, and they didn't want that to happen. So they had to make arrangements of that, and it was going to take some time. So got home for a week before left to come back. They got a telegram to take another week, and so we had 2 weeks free out. And so back then you get on a train and you're free and ride back and forth to Syracuse was a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
So that was about the end of it there. And
all right, so you get back and the ship is now ready to leave
yeah.
on a real mission. So where'd you go first?
Well, first we went back to New Jersey and refueled, and then we headed for the Trinidad, escorting a cruiser down to Trinidad.
What is the primary duty of your destroyer? We said escort. What are you watching for?
Well, basically submarines on through there, because they had subs right off the coast there. And when we hit the Caribbean Sea there, we got submarine contact. And our skipper asked to hunt it down, but cruisers and battleships didn't have sonar on them, so they couldn't detect anything. They did have depth charges anyways, so they refused to let us leave the cruiser to do it. And when we hit Trinidad, 2 days after we was in there, another LST come in, and they got talked to them. They anchored alongside of us, and we got talking to them, and there was 2 of them traveling, and that sub got one of them.
Oh, it did. Now, these would be German subs in the Atlantic?
Yeah. So then after that, we was there about a week and 4 or 5 days in Trinidad, and then we headed for the Big Ditch.
Okay, the Big Ditch being the Panama Canal?
Yeah.
How was your ability to handle the seas? Did you have trouble with seasickness at all?
Yeah.
Tell us that.
I was bad. And I wasn't quite so bad when it first started out, but once we was out in the Pacific, I started getting seasick and throwing up, and at one point I had my mind made up something had to happen because I couldn't eat. I'd go down and get something, and I'd come right back up and throw up again, and rough weather. And finally I went down through chow hall for the third time in this one deal. Was out in the Pacific, and it was pretty rough. And the mess cook there told me, he said, "Brown, you've been doing here twice. What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I haven't been able to keep anything down." And he had another tray there to get some food, and he just slapped some stuff on there and almost made me sick. And I threw it at him, and then scooped up some stuff myself and went in, sit down, and ate. And the master at arms called me. He says, "You're going to go see the exec." I said, "Can I finish eating?" He says, "Yeah, I'll have a cup of joe and finish up." Because I says, "I haven't kept anything down for more than a month, and I'd lost probably good 20 pounds. And everybody told me, including the doctor we had aboard, well, that I was just faking it." I says, "I love to eat too much to fake this." So all of a sudden, I kept that meal down, and next thing I know, went up to see the executive officer, and he asked me what happened. I told him, and he said, "The mess cook, you treat that man's food that way?" Well, he was coming through for the third time. Says, "That's not your job. You don't do that to any man, throw his food around like you did." And he turned to me and he says, "You don't pull that deal again either. Now get out of here." So got to the point where it was okay. We go back into port. Once we come back out, I threw up first time, then I was okay. But it took that long while before that cured that. And
That's a misery.
Yeah.
That's a month. Oh, that's a misery.
we went through 3 typhoons and rode them out good.
Did you get scared during the typhoons? I mean, did you worry about the ship's integrity, or what was your
No,
thoughts?
the only thing I didn't like is we was up right near the bridge in a twin 40 millimeter, and when you the steel of a destroyer, you go under 2 waves and over 1, and that water come up over there, we'd be hanging on for dear life, because it sometimes it'd be up 2 foot before it went down through all the grates and that. And I asked, "Can we go down below in our ammunition locker right next to us?" "No, you can't go down there. If something happens, you won't be ready for battle." I said, "If we stay up here, we can't do nothing. We're hanging on for dear life." So finally they let us go down underneath out of the weather. And we'd stay in there until things eased
Did
off.
anybody ever get washed away?
No,
Yeah, they were able to hang on.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What were your initial duties on board ship when you were first assigned there?
well, first assignment I was in the deck force, as they called them, deck apes, and then chipping and painting and chipping and painting and chipping and painting. And
Constantly painting, right?
Yeah.
And this is a new ship, though, right?
yeah, oh yeah, but they have to, I think these bosun mates, that's their main job, to keep it looking new, and they like to keep chipping and
Chipping and painting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
Did you, anywhere along the way, did you pick up a nickname?
No, not really. One guy said he always called me Toughy Brown, but I don't know where that come from, except it was in a boxing match, and we played occasionally aboard ship. And I was his striker, and when I got in the ordnance, he's from East St. Louis, Illinois, and out of a pretty rough family out there. And when we went to Golden Gloves, and this happened after the war was over, and we were to match together, big old 16-ounce gloves, but I was sort of pounding him up a little bit, and he didn't like it. But
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're a deck ape. When you came through the Panama Canal, where were you headed next? Where did they have you?
I took her up to San Diego,
Okay.
but they didn't let us in there, because when we went in the Panama Canal, we were supposed to be there for 3 days in the first city there. I can't think what it was. And We had a bunch of guys went ashore. I was on watch with OD and off the deck, and so I didn't get ashore with them. And coming back early in the morning, they had a big fight over, and instead of getting a boat coming across the bay, they had to come all the way around, and a bunch of Marines and other ones was after these guys, and our guys come aboard, these Marines started coming aboard, and the OD told them, you don't board and stay off. And he said, we're coming aboard, we're going to get those guys. He pulled his pistol out, he told me and the other guy that we had rifles, says, load your rifles, cock your rifles. What's good this go do? We got no bullets in the things. I said, so but we did anyways, pretended, and the guys, they stopped. The next day they had Captain Head court-martialed these guys, and three of them got broke down in ranking. One guy went from first class down to seaman, and they told us to get out of there. The commandant of the canal zone said, well, we got 3 days. We're supposed to be in San Diego. What do we do in those 3 days? That's your problem, and just get out of my area. So we went through the rest of the canal and headed for San Diego. We got there, and they said they didn't want us in there either. So we ended up getting fuel and just sailed around outside of that area before we headed for Pearl.
You were notorious at that point for making trouble? Is that why they wouldn't let you into San Diego?
Well, these guys, some of them were long-term seamen and petty officers, and they drank quite a bit. I didn't drink when I was in the service, and I didn't smoke. And though I didn't see it, the area there, but I didn't get off the ship until we got to Pearl Harbor. And
all right, so you went from San Diego to Pearl?
yeah.
Okay, tell us about Pearl. What went on there?
Basically just training in and out, and we ran up towards Aleutian Islands and gunnery practice and back, and we was there waiting for the rest of our squadron to get there, and we were probably operating off there for about 2 months, I'd say.
Around Pearl?
Yeah.
And are you still a deck ape at this point?
No, I still was then.
Tell us about when you became a gunner's mate and how that took place.
Well, they had the openings for the ordnance gangs for more guys to go in for gunner's mate. I was a first loader in a twin 40 millimeter gun. Went there, and so I asked the gunnery officer to transfer me for the ordnance, so he got me transferred, and so I was still doing the same work that I was doing when I was a deck ape, only it wasn't quite as much chipping and painting, but we'd have to pull the guns apart, clean them, paint them up, and make sure they were seaworthy and ready to fire it.
How big, show us with your hands, how big is a 40 millimeter shell?
It's about this long, maybe about 20 inches long, and about this big around.
And that was anti-aircraft gun,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So you were a loader.
Yeah.
And how did you load those? Did they come in cartridges, one at a time, or how did it work?
There's four cartridges in this thing, and they come up, the second loader hands them up to you, you hold that thing over to the mechanism, let it go, and you don't want to cock it one way or the other. Just be steady, let it go, and drop it in there, and boom, 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 you keep doing that.
Were there loaders on both sides? You said it was
Yeah.
twins, right?
Yeah.
So there was two guys on each side loading?
One guy on each side.
Okay.
And the second loader was handing you from the deck up to you, and you reach over and grab it.
How much did that weigh, that, whatever the package was you were putting in?
Oh, I know with the cartridge holder the can was in, they were close to 80 pounds. I'd say they were close to probably a good 30 pounds, right? 20, 30 pounds. And
So when the gun is firing, is the turret moving and you're moving with it, or how
Yeah.
does that work? So it's a kind of everything is moving and you're trying to load that.
right, yeah, it could be elevated up and down, swinging back and forth, and to track everything's there. And
And again, you didn't have any hearing protection?
no,
Nothing. Did they wear, you have helmets for battle
Yeah.
stations? You did, okay. All right, very good. How fast could that gun fire? I mean, what was its cadence if they let it really rip? Is it like
damn
pop, pop,
fast,
pop?
but I can't say
Yeah,
how fast it.
Right.
It was very miniatures compared to the burp guns they got today. Because
yeah. All right, so now you've got a new assignment, less chipping, less painting, and more of, now tell me about the guns. Now you're in a saltwater environment. The
Well-
guns, how do you keep the guns from corroding? I mean, that's,
Well, when we got through it, I had to storm it back in, and even when we were out to sea, and there was no sign of any enemy planes anywhere near us, because probably like we're out 400 or 500 miles from land, that we'll strip them down and clean them up and get them ready back in action. Is especially if you're getting some real bad weather, you get on salt and that, wash them up, cosmoline on them, and just put them back in.
yeah. Okay.
Up in the North China Sea, we couldn't do it. We had frozen guns, icicles hanging from them.
Did they have covers on the guns, or were they all just exposed?
We had one cover we put over the muzzle when we cleaned them and keep salt water from coming down in the barrel.
What time of year were you up north? Was it
Well, we've
probably late spring, summer?
let's see, it was late fall and winter when we
All
most
right,
of
so
the
it
time
can be
'cause-
pretty cold up there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I got a picture. I was looking at it. And I thought maybe my daughter might have brought it up with icicles hanging from it. And that was another case where I wanted to go down the ammunition locker and stay there, and they said, no, you gotta stay here. And there's icicles hanging that far from the guns.
Did you have the proper cold weather gear for that? I mean, did they?
Well, our pre-coats and that, and you wore them in that weather, but nothing special.
Nothing special, right? Okay. All right, so let's keep walking forward. Tell us what happened next.
Well, but next thing after that, I probably a few months applied for the petty officer exam and become a third-class petty officer. And there's two of us, and one kid, he just come out of school, high school, and I quit school when I was 16, and went through that whole deal of the exam there and the petty and the practical exam and doing the guns. I outscored him by a good margin, but for the petty officer exam, I forgot how to change fractions from being in school, and that knocked me out. And he beat me out by a few points, and he got appointed to the commission to become a third-class petty officer, gunner's mate. And the gunner officer says, Ms. Brown, you're gun captain. I said, no, I'm not gun captain. Geis has got the rating, he's gun captain. He says, did you hear me and understand what I said? I said, yes, sir. He says, you're gun captain. I said, well, I disagree with you. He said, you don't disagree with me, you do what I say. I said, what if I tell him to do something, he tells me go to hell? He says, you just come see me and I'll straighten him out.
So,
Well, it wasn't too long which that happened. Because once we get back in and working on the guns, taking them apart, and putting them together, I'm an old farm boy. When we had to grease up the equipment, that grab a hunk of grease and slap it against your hands and work that stuff in. Well, he'd sit there, put a little grease on his palm, take a finger and dab here. I said, that's not the way you do it. He says, yeah, I'm not getting my hands dirty. I says, you better go see Zimmerman, because tell him what you're doing and you wouldn't do what I'm telling you. Well, he did, but he came back and he started getting his hands a little greasy, but not too much.
so he got the title and you got the job.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So the gunnery officer told me, when he said, he says, got another opening and be coming up in a month, you'll have that. So I did.
So what were your duties in that role? You said you were gun captain?
Well,
Tell us specifically.
making sure the guns are in working condition, make sure the guys did their job properly, had a trainer and I can't think the other, the trainer, the gun swings, and the other one elevates. There are two men on the seats, they can kick it into manual control out of fire control if it need be, and operate manually. And these two guys were there. I learned more from them when I was in the Navy than I did from anybody, because they were both hash mark seamen. And a hash mark in the Navy is 4 years for being in. And each of them had about 7 summer court martials, now many captains mass, but never board ship. They always got screwed up when they was on shore. And they're both, the one, Carl Lougheed, he was a trainer, and he was on before an old 4-deck destroyer, which we give it, the Amazons, the South American Navy, Brazil and them, a whole bunch of them. And the other guy, he was on board another destroyer. He went through Sicily and North Africa. But I listened to those two guys, and I learned a lot from them. And
Yeah.
they're both gone, dead and gone now. I never seen one at the governor reunion, Paul Dunn, who was from Lowell, Massachusetts. He went to the first reunion we had that I got to, and then he never returned. And
His name was Paul Dunn?
Yeah.
And what was the other guy's name?
Carl Lougheed, he's from Wilmington, Delaware.
Really knew what they're doing. And then you, as you said, being on the farm, you were very familiar with equipment, which was pretty typical back then.
When I was 16, I was running a tractor, and my brother was running a tractor, and that. And of course, we also had horses that we were cultivating with, and that. And every once in a while, I was riding cultivator with a team of horses. I'd hear my dad holler, "Wake up!" because I'd sort of doze off after being out partying for the square dance or something. And at nighttime, after we got through milking, I'd go down with an old corn plant in my hand and stab my corn down in the ground to make up for the ones I dug out with a cultivator.
Yeah, good experience. All right, so let's keep going forward. You're now a gun captain, and where'd you head? What were you doing next? Where'd the ship go?
Well, once we left the Philippines, once we got away, we stopped at Iwo Atoll, and had that's where the bombs were dropped after the war was over, and sank the New Yorker. And
what was the name of the atoll again?
Eniwetok.
Eniwetok, okay.
And we went ashore at a little island called Magmag, and they gave us 2 beers and 2 Cokes, and
Had a
4
party.
hour Libby on there, and then back to the ship again. And from there we headed for the Philippines and get in and invasion of the Philippines.
All right, let's take the invasions you participated in one at a time. Which was the first one that you know where it was a named battle, I guess?
Basically the Philippines. We basically didn't get in and for any shield bombardment or anything like that because we're escorting a fleet, and we're out there throwing shells. In Missouri, you can throw shells 32 miles, and those 16-inch shells, and heavy cruisers, not quite that far, but we're staying out with air carriers and heavy ships, and for guarding against submarines and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. So
And if one of them gets hit, we're picking up survivors and things like that.
right. Okay. All right. So things go pretty well in those early battles in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah.
Did you encounter any enemy aircraft or submarines or?
No.
So it's pretty routine then.
Uh,
Tell us about those 16-inch guns. How close were you to the Missouri when it was unleashing those guns?
well, we were quite a way from there because we basically were outside the carrier fleet and with the carriers and making sure that
Nothing got in.
you got in on them and that. So, but you could hear them firing, and she might be a mile or two away from us.
Unleashed. All right. What comes next? What after the Philippines, or were there more specific battles in the Philippines?
Yeah, well, we started going out, and that's when we started heading up towards the islands there, and we went into South China Sea and bombardment of the Chinese coast there, and with the ship, and then launching airstrikes on them, and we went through one place. They sent us through this called the Bassy Channel. And the main reason we went through first was they thought the place was heavily mined and saved a big deal of going around. Well, we went through and turned around, come back, didn't see any mines, didn't hit any mines, and the whole fleet came through there. Then later they said that it was mined and some had come up and floating, and afterwards some would be anchored down, and then once a storm or something would hit, they'd float, break loose and float. And if you've seen one, we'd start shooting at them with our 40 millimeters and 20 millimeters to try to explode them. And in order to explode them, you got to hit those tips that stick out.
You got to hit the tip.
Yeah. And
Were you able to do that?
oh, well, we exploded quite a few. I don't know if any of our guns hit them or not, but because we had 2 or 3 ships shooting at them. So,
Yeah.
but it was one hell of an explosion when them things went off.
So when you went through the field, are you just visually looking for them, or did you have any other means
Well, we had our sonar on there, and
that could pick them up?
but they could. I think they could pick them up. It's not like a submarine. The submarine is moving and that. But most of them are sort of anchored down, and so I don't know. I never get in that sonar very much because I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I didn't understand radar, and I don't understand cell phones today.
Okay. All right. So you you had protection duty, and then let's keep going. Tell us where you went next.
Well, after going through there, we ended up going back to the Philippines for refueling. Of course, we had to refuel about every 4 days, either from a carrier or a cruiser. And on the short runs, we wouldn't get run into a tanker. But after we started staying out and for the one deal for 90 days, we'd refuel. we only once, I think, we ever refilled from a tanker, because we didn't take enough there. But running it, Halsey would run at 20 knots, and at that speed, about 3 days, we'd be out of fuel, and we'd have to refuel, and it was either from a cruiser or an aircraft carrier. And
these burned diesel fuel?
pardon?
But they were burning diesel fuel? Was
Yeah,
that the fuel?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. All right. So let's keep moving forward and take us through the different events.
We go back down through to get more ammunition on and everything else to the Philippines, and we get time off to go there. We had these areas where we could go, 2 bottles of beer and 2 Cokes, and about 4 hours out there. A couple of guys decided one day somebody told them there was a little village not too far away, so they jumped over a fence and even had MPs for shooting at them, and they got back, and they come back at night in a little sort of a raft to come aboard ship, and they got caught, and the skipper said, any more of this, there's going to be trouble. So some of the guys died the next day, same thing, and that they got caught too, and they ended up with 30 days, what we call piss and punk.
And what is that?
All the water you could eat and bread for 30 days was 1 square meal a day. You know, and in a little brig that was not much bigger than what this table is. So, and we usually was in there getting refueled, and any repairs they had to be made, and that usually would be maybe about 4 or 5 days, and get all refueled, and then start heading back up towards the other islands up there, and then the first major deal was we really hit was Iwo Jima, and of course we're out 200 miles and protecting the carriers and that, and we're just sending planes off, and then of course the heavy cruisers and that, and Missouri and Iowa, and them would be in maybe 20 miles lobbing the shells in there, and guys going in with their amphibious boats, and it was a long battle there.
How close did you end up coming to the island of Iwo Jima?
Oh, well, we
were you outside?
We probably didn't get within 20 miles of it, because we stayed out there. Probably not even that close, because we're staying out there with protecting the carrier fleet.
Right.
Mainly it was our big duty to protect the carriers from, if there's any subs there, if they see the wake of a torpedo, if we could intercept it and take the hit, that was our job.
So you really had to take a hit if you saw a torpedo. And these were fairly agile ships.
Yeah.
As we said, up to 36 knots.
Yeah.
So this is pretty quick. Did you encounter any submarines or any?
Well, we did, but we've dropped a few death bombs, but we thought we had one once, but it never surfaced. But our depth charges just sat there most of the time. Mm-hmm. Once in a while, we had to clean them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. So how long were you on patrol at Iwo Jima? That battle lasted, what, about a month, but they started bombing it well before that. Yeah,
even the big planes were flying from up there and hitting it from Guam and that. And like I said, we had, can't remember how many carriers we had out there, but they were hitting it hard continuously, and It's hard to say just how many days we did stay out there with it.
Did you get much news? Did they, you're on patrol, you're right there, but did they actually tell you what was going on Iwo
No.
Jima? So you pretty much were left,
Yeah.
in the dark, if you will.
I had a
Okay.
friend I went to school with, grade school on up for 4 or 5 years, same name as mine, but last name Howard Brown from Peoria. He got killed in Iwo. He was in the Marines, and I learned about that from a letter I got from my folks.
And that was a friend of yours.
Yeah.
That had to be difficult. Yeah. All right. Had you along the way encountered any casualties that had somehow found their way to your boat, or at that point, are you pretty much, again, still pretty much off set
Yeah,
up?
we were offshore so far that, and we had our carriers or none of them got hit at that time, and although
Okay. All right. What's next?
well, we back to Philippines. Sometimes we'd end up going back to Guam. Actually, I forgot about when we hit the China Sea there in South China Sea. Our ship had a crack develop just back of the bridge and just down from my gun station, which was right next to the bridge. And you could look over the side and see that crack open as we went over a wave and then close. And our skipper called Halsey, he broke radio silence on it. And he told him what was happening, and the answer he got, if you can't keep up, abandon ship, we'll pick up survivors. And that water was pretty cold. We kept up. But then when we ended back, start retreating back to Philippines, we ended up going to Guam, and it was 2 weeks there in floating dry dock. They put a 12-inch, 1-inch steel plate 23 feet up that hull, welded it, and riveted it. And 30 years later, it was still on that ship when it was scrapped. I have three friends down in Florida. One of them served, well, the two brothers both served on it. And the one was on it when it went through the St. Lawrence Seaway, the first American ship through the St. Lawrence Seaway. And other fella, he lives on Elmira in the summertime. He's on it 2 years, 64 to 66 in the Philippines, or in the Mediterranean. So.
Why did they bring it through the Seaway? Was it on a tour?
Well, our first skipper brought the heavy cruiser Boston, took it all the way to Lake Superior. Mm-hmm. And that was opening in the Seaway. And Queen Elizabeth followed USS Ault through the Seaway to Montreal. And my tin can went to, I heard it was in Ogdensburg, New York. And I had a business up there that my brother seen it in the Northern Edition of papers because he had a farm out in Weedsport. And he told me about it. And I called up there to the office, but they said there's no ship there. And so, but it did go to Toledo, Ohio, was anchored there. And my friend out there, his sisters seen it. He was from Brooklyn, Michigan. He ran down there about a 2-hour drive, and it had gone, so he didn't see it either, so.
Yeah.
But.
Well, sailors after a while get an affection for their vessels, don't they? They're kind of a living being, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So you got patched up. That's good. That's probably disconcerting to see a crack in your ship when you're going along. Yeah.
Yeah, because that thing opened up pretty good. I could look over the railing and see it opening, and that wasn't. And of course, we had good pumps, and the water was coming in, but we were pumping it out.
Fast as it's coming
But
in.
yeah, but it's if we fortunately we didn't hit really hard bad weather, and or we would have been in real trouble.
Yeah. Could have broken you up.
Yeah.
All right, so you're fixed and you're headed out to do some work again. What comes next?
Next was Okinawa,
Okay.
which was biggest destroyer, the loss of ships, and that was destroyers, and because they were guarding the carrier fleet once again, and that's right from Okinawa. They were sending kamikazes out right and left, and the aircraft carrier Bunker Hill got hit. Like I said before, we was at condition 3 and 2/3 of crew crapped out in gun stations, and all of a sudden, it's about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm laying in a barrel box with the headphones on, and I looked up and I see a meatball flying a couple 100 feet or 300 feet over top of our mast.
That's a Japanese Zero?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I hit the button hollering, there's an effing Jap. And before anything happened, it dropped its bombs and crashed to Bunker Hill. So
And how far were you from the Bunker Hill when
we
that
were
happened?
probably about 400 or 500 yards,
And he was how far above your mast?
about 200 or 300 feet. He could have had us like a dead pigeon, but he had a big fish he could get. And there was not one shot ever fired at. We couldn't get a shot at it because we couldn't have fired anyway because he's past us. But my buddy crushed from us had twin 40, and it didn't have time to get manned, and even on the gun stations we got before it hit. The second one come around our stern. My buddy got measured. He got threw his gun in the automatic manual control and got fire. And he said he had it burning when it hit the second deck of the Bunker Hill. And the third one, the Marine Fire Corps Ryukyu sheriff shot him down. Fourth one made a run on us, and we were doing about 25 knots at that time, zigzagging, and he was coming, and we had every gun but our 2 5-inch mounts on the front couldn't fire back at him because he come directly astern, and I could see him in that cockpit when just before he got hit, and he had his white scarf on, and I almost could see him as good as I could see us hit and see you right now.
What hit him? What one of your?
Well, our 5-inch shell hit him, and he just peeled over and went down. And
So a 5-inch shell is a pretty significant.
yeah, it's this big around and about this long when the hit exploded the boot. And
So that was pretty good shooting,
Yeah.
pretty good aiming. How far away was he from the ship when he got hit, do you think?
I'd say maybe about 800 feet.
And is this your first encounter with hostile fire? Is this,
Well,
in terms of coming at your vessel?
Coming at us, yeah.
Yeah.
Other ones we shot down 5 planes altogether. Should have had credit for a couple more, but carriers, they'd be firing because they had 5 twin mounts, 5-inch 38s and a whole bunch of 40s. They might be firing from 15 miles away, and we're firing from 5 miles or less than that on them. And the plane would get hit, they'd claim it. So we wouldn't get credit for it.
Yeah.
A couple of them, they changed and give us credit for them, but
Yeah. So all right, so the Bunker Hill's now on fire. It's been
Yeah.
hit. Take us and tell us what you guys did next.
well, 2 of our ships, I think it was the English, Hainsworth, pulled alongside there and started pumping water onto it because it was ablaze. We met later with the Bunker Hill for reunions, And the photographer on the Bunker Hill was right in the middle of that first explosion. He never got a hair singed. And he was taking pictures of it with the fire all the way around him. And we ended up picking up 29 guys out of the water, and one of them was ended up coming. His family came to our reunions because they listed another ship as picking him up, and our guy that handled our reunions and things notified the Navy and got it corrected. And his wife and his son came to Valley Forge for the first time at a reunion we had, but he had passed away by that time. Basically, what we done was picking up guys from the Bunker Hill because we had flag aboard. They don't want them to get too close because
When you said you had flag aboard, what does that mean?
the squadron commander is a commodore, which is the same as a rear admiral, and they don't like them getting too close to something that,
To danger?
yeah.
Yeah.
But we, and when the skipper saved that ship is when he had him open up all power to it hard and made a real steep left-hand turn, and it washed the planes and the fuel that was burning at the top deck off into the
So that
ocean.
was intentional?
Yeah,
Oh, that's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Pretty clever. It says the Ault rescued 29 men from the stricken
Yeah.
ship. And the destroyer, the Ault, escorted her to the replenishment group and then rejoined action on the 13th. So the Bunker Hill survived that
yeah,
and was able to get back to port.
yeah.
How long did the whole episode take while you were kind of on station fighting the fire and rescuing people? And
Oh, probably about 2 hours, I'd say.
And how far were you actually from the port that the ship eventually went into?
When he got hit,
Yeah, when he got hit, how far away from land were you? You know.
oh, we were probably out there 150, 200 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
maybe a little closer, but
Okay. Very good. That's interesting. A witness to the attack on the Bunker Hill, which is a very famous kamikaze attack. Yeah. All right. So were there any other battles or engagements that you were involved in? We're starting to get close to the. We've got Okinawa here.
well, before that, we were with Halsey up when what the hell is that ship? She, not aircraft carrier, got hit hard, but she was off in a different division with the 3rd Fleet. We were all in the 3rd Fleet, but she was off operating in a different area. We could see her burning. I can't think of the name of it. Because I know my buddy Johnny Granda, who I was a striker when I became petty officer, and he had a cousin on there, and he got blown off into the water. He said afterwards he got picked up, and he was worried about him, but he got word that somehow that he survived it, and they were from East St. Louis, Illinois, but it made it all the way back to the States, but never did return, because it got hit real bad.
When you picked up those survivors on the Bunker Hill, did you actually encounter any of the men that were these men injured, or were they?
Oh yeah, guys, we had chow with them. Most of them was with us for at least 2 days till we got the hospital ship and transferred them on to that.
Was everybody? I mean, did everybody was brought on board alive, or did you have to recover any fellas that didn't?
No,
make it?
we didn't have any that were dead.
Were they badly injured, or were they mostly just?
No, most of them weren't. What we got,
They were just overboard and
Yeah.
got away from the blaze. Yeah, okay. All right, very good. Okay. What happened next? Getting close to the end here, right?
Yeah, let's see, Bill.
Any memorable folks that you encountered, commanders, captains, anybody like that really stands out in your mind as being somebody you'd like to recall in this interview?
Well, both our executive officer and our captains were two great guys. J.C. Wiley, he became an admiral. He come aboard our ship as a first commander, as a lieutenant commander, and Healy, our executive officer, he became admiral. We had several officers aboard our ship became admirals. Mm-hmm. And Healy said when he greeted us all when we were in Brooklyn, he says, "I want a clean ship and we're going to have a clean ship." I never took a saltwater shower. I showered every day with fresh water. We had good food. We had pokey, which we called ice cream. We had our laundry done. We had clean clothes every day. And we didn't have any bugs. We did have one problem that guy from Wisconsin, I went in Liberty with him in New York City, and before we was in New York with Coney Island and that, we picked up a couple of chicks, and next thing I know, we're out to sea, and I was in the middle bunk, 3 bunks high. There were 3 rows, row here, row here, and row here. This guy was in the top bunk, and the 3rd row. And I heard an action one night, and the bosun mate down, I can't think of what the hell his name was, but he barked at his and he said, "Damn you," he says, "I've told you 3 times now, I catch you without any shorts on, you're going to see the man." So they took him up. Unbeknown to me, he was what we called back then queer. And different guys were coming down visiting through the night. And he's up in this bunk, I'm in this middle bunk here. When I hit the sack to sleep, I went to sleep. I never knew nothing was going on. And in fact, one day, I woke up and I did wake up in the morning, but I was entitled to sleep in because I was on late watch. And the bosun mate come down, McDonald, and he grabbed me, rolled me over, and I'm still almost asleep. And he did, man, I swung and I hit him, and next thing I know, I was out of that bunk and on the way up to see the exec. And he claimed I was over there raising hell the night before and that. Well, I had guys tell him, no, he's dead asleep. He come out for watch, he was dead asleep, and I could fall asleep in a minute. And he didn't listen to him, so we went to see the exec. And he said to the bosun mate, "What happened?" He told him, and he says, "Brown, did you hit this man?" I said, "Yeah," but they didn't know what was going on. I said, next thing I was dead asleep. Next thing I know, somebody was grabbing me and pulled me out, and I rolled. As I rolled, I swung. And he says, the bosun mate, "Did you touch that man?" "Yes, sir." He said, "You know that's against rules, regulations. You don't touch any man when he's asleep at any time, or even standing up." And he chewed him out. Then he told me, get back and do what you're supposed to be doing. And I said, yes, sir. He said, don't do it again. I said, hope not. So, but he was fair and square. Both them guys come to our reunions that we had, and they both made tremendous careers out of them, and great gentlemen on top of that, everything.
It's great to have a great leader, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody you can respect. And those guys would have been, were they much older than you, these two
Oh,
fellows?
yeah, they probably 30 years older.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so, okay. Yeah, interesting. And did you have any close friends on board the ship that you developed friendships with?
Oh, yeah, a few. There's a couple of guys from Binghamton and New York, and another one from Ohio. They were on my gun crew, and they were both. Well, one was a real religious kid from Binghamton. The other one, they both could sing great. At nighttime, they'd be singing, we'd be on watch, and that was a nice break in it. But the guy from Ohio, he was pretty good. He drank quite a bit when board on leave and that, and get liberty. But and a couple other ones. We had one a famous man come aboard and just before the war ended, in July of '45. His name was Daryl Gates. I don't know if you recall that name or not.
No, I don't.
LAPD police chief when
Oh, yeah,
riots
now I do,
and
yeah.
that. Him and his brother graduated from high school, and they were thought they were a tough couple of cookies and got some trouble. And the judge told him, you either go and serve or you should go to jail. So in this book he wrote, LAPD, he told me he board in pages 11 to 13 his career aboard the USS Ault, which he says he didn't enjoy one bit. And I can understand why. He come aboard, he thought he was big and tough and rough. Well, it wasn't too long that he found out he wasn't so big and tough and rough as he thought he was, because some guys worked him over pretty hard. And then he started straightened out. And
Little attitude correction?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I became good friends with the other guys that got it made. Old Hinkle from, his name was Howard Hanson Hinkle from Canada, West Virginia. And he was a gun captain in our Port 40, Twin 40, and then Johnny Granda from East St. Louis, and Dan Lent from Brooklyn, Michigan. And him and I became close friends after the war. I pulled in there one day where he lived in the late afternoon, and it was my truck. I was heading for Chicago, and I called him, and he told me where his house was. And I pulled right over and parked in front of his house in the street, and then we went out and had a couple of beers and stayed overnight, and we became real good friends. And he come visit us at the reunions, and him and his wife and I would mostly hang out together there, and then other times we'd come up from Florida, we'd stop in up through there and see him. And he just passed away a couple of years ago. And then we had another guy, Bucky O'Connor. He's a bosun mate. I used to tell him, you're the meanest suckers there ever was. He said, no, I'm a nice guy. But he was a pretty nice guy, but he was strict. And but he just passed away last year. Our last reunion we had, we teamed with the Bunker Hill for 6 years, because they were getting down in people in order to get decent rates.
Yeah.
We didn't have too many coming anymore. Usually, we did have one. We had one last year, and they said it was going to be the last one. And I was the only one there from our ship. another family out Buckhill County. He'd passed away, and his family came, and
Yeah, we're finding that some of those are being attended by family members now.
Yeah.
It's nice that the children and the grandchildren are memorializing their
Yeah.
lost ones.
yeah. We wanted to have another one, and I didn't think it was going to happen because the guy took over from his brother-in-law, or I guess it would be his brother-in-law. He was a photographer aboard the Bunker Hill, and so Furnicola was his name, and both of them had the same name, and his dad, who was aboard there, was Furnicola, and Tony was taking care of the whole thing, and he'd get sick and he died, and so Skip, the guy's son, took it over the past few years, and I don't know what's wrong, he weighs about 400 pounds, but he's got tremendous guy, but it just said he ran out of gas, he just couldn't do it anymore, and then, so that was the last one. We didn't have one last fall, and my daughter just come down right up with us to Myrtle Beach, her last 2 or 3 ticket ones, and I took her down and board the York down there, and Patriots Point there, Charleston, South Carolina, and aboard the Laffey there too, and it's I sort of miss it, but everything comes to an end.
Yeah. Okay, so at this point, are we moving toward the end of the war?
Yeah.
Where were you when you heard that the war had ended in
Well, we
August?
were probably 100 miles off of Tokyo when the first bomb was dropped, and somehow they told us, they handed out glasses to us, and where they came from, nobody knows, because they said don't look directly at it. And the second one, the same thing. In fact, it was just about a month before, we had Admiral Byrd aboard ship for about 3 days, and we transferred him off to another one. And this one guy from Ohio, he says, I talked to Byrd, and Byrd told him all about the atomic bomb and that. And I asked for an exec years later at the reunion. I said, did Admiral Byrd ever talk to you or Captain Haley about the atomic bombs? He says, no. I said, well, this so-and-so claims he did, that he was in the conversation. He says, he's just full of it. He didn't know anything about it.
They kept that pretty close.
Yeah.
So did you actually see the bomb in the distance?
Yeah.
You didn't know what was coming, did you?
No.
You all of a sudden, tell us about that moment.
Well, it was just, over that was it.
Did you hear it or see it first?
No, we did hear it. You could see the clouds going up. And the second one, where we was closer to it, we could almost, some guys claim they could see the flames from Nagasaki, but I never could. But we could see the clouds rising up in the air.
Before that, were you preparing for the invasion of Japan? What was the talk about that?
Well, some wanted to do it real quick, but it never was too much that I can recall that we were going to invade it, because they knew they had planes left, but they only had young kids flying them, 12-year-olds. In fact, Island Kyushu, when we come in there, we went in different places there and up in the mountains, got stuff. They had 4,000 planes left, but nobody flying. But and kids. And
Yeah, probably not a lot of fuel left either at that point.
no, it's because they didn't have the facilities of their own oil there, and they sure couldn't get it in. So just whatever they had stored it.
Well, that famous quote from the Admiral on Pearl Harbor Day was that they did awaken a sleeping giant.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so the war's now ended. So how soon were you, what happens next? Did you get out right away? Did you serve a little longer? Or what
No,
was it?
well, like I say, we took the British Admiral in and our squadron commander. Then we stayed out to sea for a couple of weeks before we come back in, and we started patrolling. We'd stay in the port for 2 or 3 days, and we'd escort a cruiser or a carrier someplace.
What port were you going in and out of? Were you?
Oh, we was in the Yokosuka and Yokohama.
Okay,
and
so right in
there.
Japanese ports.
Yeah.
So you were kind of on occupation duty in a way.
Yeah. And then when we was in there, we was getting on liberty every other day. Every other day I volunteered for shore patrol. And so I board ship.
Yeah.
And,
Where were you actually on the day that the documents were signed on the Missouri? Where was your vessel? Was it nearby or what?
we're probably about 400, 500 feet away.
Oh, so you were pretty close
Yeah.
then, yeah.
Yeah, some people, this one guy wrote this letter into the Tin Can Sailor Association, said he boarded our ship in July of '45, and that we were, and went alongside the Missouri and put him aboard the British Admiral, which we didn't go alongside. We anchored off, took him, our squadron commander, Higgins, and the British Admiral Kincaid over in our motor whaleboat, put him aboard Missouri. When it was over with, we went back with our motor whaleboat. After the Japanese embassy, people left, went back aboard there, took them off and took them back out to sea to their own ships. And anybody says that we were aboard, we put them aboard the Missouri from our anchored. This guy says we anchored aboard it and watched the whole ship from ship side. I says, it's a damn lie, we didn't. And then on top of that, he says we stayed there until May of 45 or 46. Well, I got discharged out of Long Island in April of 46. I left a destroyer in Bangor, Maine. And when I come home on a 30-day leave, went back, and 2 days later I was on my way to Lido Beach. And I said, this whole letter's a lie.
Creative writing,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Tell us now, during the ceremony, I believe, can you describe the flyover there was that took place?
It was a dark cloud. It just almost blacked it.
How many American and Allied planes were going over, do you think?
Somebody said 2,000.
And it actually darkened the skies.
Yeah. I don't know. Boy, of course, we had a bunch of carriers still there. They were basically almost all there, out there, so they could fly over too. And then the bombers from Iwo Jima and that, and some come from China. But to say 2,000 planes in one group flying over it, it's a heck of a lot of airplanes.
How long did it take for them to all fly over?
Well, it didn't seem that long. That's because they're moving along. They're not just putting along.
300
They're
miles an hour?
probably going 300 mile an hour,
Yeah.
and to get over. But it's something that it's hard to describe.
I
But
think that was probably a reminder that the Allies and the Americans had plenty
yeah,
of hardware left,
Yeah.
and not to realize the war was over.
yeah.
Well, that was quite a victory. So, all right, you headed from there. You were heading back home eventually, or what?
Well, no, we stayed there 4 months. They told us we'd leave December 31st. Every other ship's leaving earlier. One's coming out back for older ships. They were going. We stayed there for the 4 months.
Tell me how the Japanese people treated you. You said you had shore patrol.
Yeah.
How did they treat you?
They were very polite. I never had any trouble with any of them. I had more trouble with our guys than we did with them. But this one kid, these two Japs had like a telephone pole. It was big and heavy. They had it on their shoulders, taking it someplace. And all of a sudden, this kid went and had a stick, and he clubbed the one behind the head with it, because his brother had been killed in Iwo. And we got him out of there and that, and the ship patrol I was working with is one that was under. He wanted to go and arrest him. I told him what had happened. I said, you can't do that to this kid. He just lost it. And he finally agreed with me, and he didn't get in any trouble.
At any point, did you go anywhere near the Nagasaki or Hiroshima?
We was in both places.
Oh, you did. You
Yeah.
toured that.
Yeah.
What describe the landscape for us?
Well, there wasn't much left of it. We could see, although in one place there was a big smokestack about 300 foot high still standing. That's the one thing that really impressed me. I said, boy, how does that thing stand up there?
You got to find that Mason.
Yeah. But it's almost like Dresden in Germany when we bombed that place and put it in all rubble. And people complained that we assassinated people and that we shouldn't have done it. Well, they had a big ball bearing plant in that place.
Yeah.
And we didn't start this stupid war. And when they'd done that, anybody complained that we shouldn't have done that, it was wrong. In fact, when we got Yamamoto, when he was killed, and we was not too far away from it, but they got intercepted messages. Him and Tojo were flying into this island, and for a meeting. And we got a hold, we didn't, but the Army and Air Force got wind of this and tracking it and getting the messages. And they didn't know whether they should. They'd ask them, could you intercept these planes, shoot these guys down? The Air Force said, yeah, we got them. And they said, well, seeing we've invaded their privacy, we don't know whether this would be called assassination or not, or we could get in trouble. They finally went to Roosevelt, or Truman, I think it was Roosevelt, because he hadn't died yet. And he finally gave the okay, and they shot him down. Tojo, they crashed, but he survived it. Yamamoto was killed in the crash. We shot his plane down. But I said, why did they have to, why could people say we'd go assassinate them? Because we found out where they were flying to and was going to get them. I just couldn't understand that.
It's called war.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of killing that happens in war.
Yeah.
So what it is.
So,
all right, so you finally did leave.
well, we done a lot, in those 4 months, we done a lot of escort. We pulled out, well, I was on shore patrol down this place in Okinawa, Japan, down the bay, and we're about, it set us off at probably about 20 miles, 10 miles from where our ship was. And we're down there and just patrolling around, walking around, and there's about 6 of us and from other ships there, and 2 of us from our ship. Me and one guy was permanent shore patrol. And nobody picked us up. It's getting cold. It's in December. And we found a few scraps of wood in an old barrel, and we got a fire started. And about 6 o'clock, boat pulled in, this lieutenant got out, "What have you been doing here?" We told him, "Well, get the boat, we'll take you." Well, it was getting pretty dark, and I was up in front of this motor wheelboat, and all of a sudden, probably not the length of this whole room, I see this big black mass coming right directly at us, and we're starting to move pretty good clip. I jumped, I went overboard, and just then this thing veered off a little bit because we had lights on. They didn't have it. It was an LCVP, a landing craft infantry, steel, where that big old gate flopped down. These guys would pour out the front of the boat, and they boats hit sideways, but didn't damage it, and they kept right on going. All I heard was, "Get that shore patrol," and I'm out there paddling with full blues on and 45 hanging on me.
No life jacket?
No.
Treading water then.
I was just floating there a little bit with the air coming in. That helped a little bit keep me up. They finally dragged me aboard. But then they took us back and dumped us off. I said, "Why are you doing this?" This lieutenant said, "Well, I did get in trouble over this." I said, "What are we going to do now?" "Well, you wait till somebody else can by." And it's pretty 2 hours, another boat can by.
And you're soaking wet and it's winter.
Yeah, we got the fire going again a little bit, but it was still cold. And this next one come by, and but same thing happens. And we tell him, "I said, get in the boat," and he took us back. And I'm coming aboard the ship there, and we're getting ready to escort this cruiser to Sasebo, go pull out middle of the night. And I get it come aboard ship, and Chief Gunner's Mate Phillips says he's from Niagara Falls. Alvin, nice guy. He said, "Brown, where the hell you been?" And I told him. And he says, "Get that 45 and get down there and get that thing cleaned up before it gets salt-ridden and rust." I pulled the thing out and I flipped it to him. I said, "You clean the damn thing, I'm going sick bay." He said, "You're on report." Fine and dandy. So I went down to sick bay and told Doc what happened. He gave me a double shot of brandy. He says, "Hit the sack, you don't have to get up for your watch, night watch." So in the morning, I come back out to get up, went down eating, and went up top side, and I said, "See Phillips there," and I said, "Well, when we go see the exec?" He said, "I heard what happened." He says, "I dropped everything." He says, "But don't do something like that again." I said, "Which way? Getting dunked in the water or throwing a gun at you?" He said, "Preferably both." But it wasn't a very pleasant day.
Guess not.
But
all right. Anything else before you headed, the ship left Japan forever?
Well, we left there the 31st of December, hoisted a homeward bound Bennett, and then we hit Guam, refueled. We picked up 24 Marines there that had no way of getting back, and they come aboard, and we headed out. Well, we hit another storm. Wasn't a typhoon, but boy, it was a rough storm. And these guys, they got sicker than dogs. They begged the captain to take them someplace to drop them off and leave them. And we get through it, and we had about New Year's Day, we had a big meal there. These guys couldn't eat, and I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
By then you'd gotten over the seasickness.
Yeah. And once I got out to sea, if it was smooth, first couple of days I was okay. If it got rough, I'd eat my cookies and then I'd be okay. And
very good.
I never thought seasickness would help because I went swimming, had a big pond back of our farm. I swam there, swam in a pond down in fish pond down off Route 20 and played hockey on that ice in that pond in the wintertime. And It amazed me that I got seasick. But
All right, where'd the ship first touch? You get back to the U.S. Where was the port of it?
we pulled in to Frisco for 2 days while we hit Hawaii on the way back, then refueled from there. Then pulled into Frisco and stayed there 2 weeks.
Did you see were you awake when you went under the Golden Gate Bridge?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Tell us what was going through your mind at that point. It's usually a...
Well, not really much of anything except to sort of get out in Liberty and see what it was all about again, see some pretty chicks.
At this point, you're about how old?
20.
20, yeah. Yeah.
So,
but you made it.
yeah.
That's for sure, you made it.
Yeah. Yeah, we, well, same way there. I went on ship patrol every night there. And then one day, I was out there with this guy, and the guy come out from a bar, and hey, got a guy in here causing us trouble. So we go in, and Marine sitting there, and he was pretty well half drunked up, and we got him outside, and he was that. I said, why don't you take off and get back to base and go and sober up? And this permanent shore patrol was with me, but the guy was about 5'6", a little guy, but he had several years of service in, and he wanted to run him, and I said, oh, he's not doing nothing, not bothering anybody. He got a little drunk, so we let him go. About 3 hours later, we come back around the same place. The guy comes out again, the guy's in there and really raising hell. And the guy says, you can run in. I says, hey, your job. Now I'm ordering you, you go in and get him. Well, I got up, talked to him, and I tried to talk to him, and he wouldn't listen to that. I said, come on, let's go outside, we're going with you. And at that time, he reached for his belt. And I heard what happened to some Aussies when they took out a bunch of Marines, and the guys took off their belts. And I says, it ain't gonna happen to me. And I hit him right across the bridge of the nose with my billy club. And he went to his knees, and then people started hollering, what did you hit that poor man for? Oh, he ain't doing nothing. So I got him outside. He said, the old ship patrol there, he wanted to take him, lock him up again. I said, Christ, he can't even walk. Let's get him away from here, and then maybe he'll sober up and go on his own again, which we did, and let him go, and that was that. But the guy says to me, why'd you hit him? I told him why I hit him. I says, I ain't going to have a Marine take a belt to me and chop me up.
Well, a drunk Marine can be a very dangerous individual.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so now you had, okay, so shore patrol in San Francisco, and then what happens next?
Well, we ended up, after 2 weeks, we ended up there, down around, come through the ditch again. Of course, as we pulled in through there, the commandant told us, you go straight through, there's no stopping.
The Ault was famous.
Yeah, and we went straight through, no stopping, so I never got a chance to go ashore in the Panama Canal. And we pulled out of there and got refueled and went to Baltimore, and was in Baltimore for a couple of weeks, and you know, I left it there, and the weekend passed. Supposed to only stay on the coast, and instead of going home, I went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or not Pittsburgh, Latrobe, to meet a gal that we'd had a 2-year correspondence by mail, and met her, stayed overnight at her grandparents. She was raised by her grandparents, and we were pretty close, and her grandmother says to me, what's your intentions? And I said, well, I have close feelings for your granddaughter, and I claim to believe she has for me. And I says, if all things happen, we probably get married. She says, you're a Protestant. I said, that's right. She says, I'd rather see her dead than married to you. I says, that's a lot of grateful feelings for a guy who just served 2.5 years in this war to come back and have my first deal with a pretty little gal answer. And I says, I don't think much of you. I don't think much of your whole feelings. I have nothing against Catholics. I have nothing against any religion. I believe you believe in what you would believe in. I believe in what I believe in. And I think no matter what you are or what I am, there's only one man. He's up above. It's all our own behavior, but he's going to keep us or takes us or keep us, not individuals. So she came to Syracuse once for a week and back, and then she went back, and they had some friend there that really was, she grew up with there, and her grandparents pushed her on to him, and that was the last I seen of her. And I did get a phone call several years later from her. In fact, just before I got, probably about 4 years before I got married, and she was out in Ohio someplace, but she wouldn't tell me where at. So I said, well, goodbye. It's been nice seeing you, or talking to you, but I guess no sense of carrying on. It ain't gonna happen. So.
Well, tell us. You're okay. So where were you? You exited.
Bangor, Maine.
Bangor, Maine.
Yeah. And I got a 30-day leave out of there, and I come home. My dad is in the hospital. He had a hernia operation. I come home and helped. We had beautiful springs. Planted over 300 acres of oats. Wanted to plant corn. My dad wouldn't let us because it normally didn't plant corn until the middle of May. Well, I left, went back to Bangor. 2 days later, I was in Lido Beach, Long Island. Got home the 19th of April. 21st, they had the biggest blizzard the whole winter. Our oats was doomed. We had to replant all of them.
That's late for snow around these parts.
Yeah, and so that was the start of my
back to farming.
And I thought I'd stay on that farming, but I got into it. It seemed too much and too many other things. So in the fall, I told Dad, I said, I just can't do this. So a friend of mine had a tractor, and a farm tractor, and we went and bought a hay baler, an automatic hay baler. There was black market stuff that we bought it. We started baling hay and straw and that, and he didn't want to do any of the work, so I done all the work. And he bought a truck and started to haul in cement blocks, and after about 2 weeks of that, he had enough of hauling cement blocks, and we'd end up, it got chewed hay and straw and wheat baling, and it got a corn picker, small corn picker, and got in October, getting bad weather and rain, and I says, we can't keep this up, there's nothing there. And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, you might as well dissolve this deal, and you got your tractor back. We sold a corn picker and a baler to his dad, who was a farmer, and he said, what do you want to do with the truck? I said, well, it's your truck, you paid for it. He said, well, I don't want the damn thing, it was an old Army truck. So he said, well, it's yours, take it for your share of what you've done. I said, okay. So I did, I got rid of it, a few $100s, and then I started driving hauling lumber on the North Country. A guy from Skinny was a house builder over there. And fall I hauling cabbage and for Murphy out of Marcellus and to Baltimore, Philadelphia, and then hauling coal back from Pennsylvania. And was paying me $25 a round trip. I had to pay my own meals and everything. One day the thing broke down, there was a load of coal on. I had to sleep in the truck. It was not too comfortable. It wasn't safe for cab because if I had to get a motel, I had to pay for that. So I quit him and I wrote a letter to an application to Gray Van Lines in Chicago, part of Greyhound moving business. And he wrote me back to come out for an appointment, so I did. I was 22, and I got there, and first thing we were meeting, the guy said, well, we don't take anybody under 25, and boy, that started to burn me. And I said, well, why the hell did you tell me to come out here then? I says, I wasted 2 days getting here. I had a sleeper keep taking the train and that. And I said, now I got to go back home. And I said, I don't appreciate it. The guy said, well, just calm down a little bit. So he says, you got some good recommendations here and that. And I already had bought a tractor. So they said, we're going to give you a shot at it. So 2 weeks I stayed there and went out in local moving jobs with them and didn't get any money for it, but they did go and buy us meals when we were on it. Well, that's 2 nights in a row. We don't get through the thing until about 4 in the morning, and they tell me, you got to be down the warehouse 7 o'clock in the morning. I said, somebody's crazy. I'm not going to be down there no 7 o'clock. So I went back to the hotel. I showed up about 10. The guy come over to me, he says, you Brown? I said, yeah. He said, you're wanted in the office there. You're in trouble. I said, well, if this is any worse than trouble, what I've been doing there, working for free and busting my hump, I says, he didn't go by bother me none, so I go into the guy, where you been? I told him, you knew you were supposed to be down here at 7. I said, hey, you worked me till 4 o'clock in the morning for free. The night before is about the same thing. I said, I'm no slave. I'm not going to be a slave. I said, well, it looks right now, I'm all done. He said, well, no, we got the driver here who's been waiting for you. You're going to put you on the road with him. So they gave me $50 a week to go with him and for 2 weeks, and which I did. He was a real nice guy. I learned a lot from him. First trip, we hit Washington, D.C., and driving in, and I said to him, after about 15 miles of driving, I says, is there any white people live in this city? He said, we haven't got to the bad part yet. So we unloaded there and then went up New York on White Plains. We got in there and they put us there in this movie, take a movie of us. His gas company wanted to show that truck drivers love to eat food cooked on gas. So we go into this restaurant, beautiful restaurant in White Plains, and they end up bringing us out a great big steak and on a meal. And we haven't had nothing to eat 10 or 12 hours. And I started picking up fork. I said, oh, you can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? You want, no, this is just for show. Next thing you know, we're in the truck going to this other restaurant. I come out with another big steak there. When nobody's looking, I grabbed off a chunk of meat, started chawing away on there. Man, there's hell there. But that was good. Finally, they let us eat the damn thing. But,
so tell us how you ultimately started your own company. How did that happen?
well, I worked almost 4 years for Gray Van Lines, and my dad, he got laid off at 32 from gray van, or Greyhound. He helped build the first bus that they built and converted in Syracuse. And he told me when I left to go to work out there, he says, if Harry So-So is still there, I feel sorry for you. He says he's a real pain in the butt because he was one that laid him off. And I got out there, and first trip back, I says, no, it was about 4 years later, I told my dad when I got back, I left him, and I says, you told me what he was, and I said, you hit it nose right in the head, because he's still the same dirty bastard that he ever was. But I ran with him for 4 years, and I just finally got sick and tired, and just before we were going to get married, I come home, and while I was in Scranton, I'd unloaded, and this is about 2 weeks before I'm going to get married. They told me, you can't go home. I said, what do you mean I can't go home? I'm 130 miles from Syracuse. I'm going home. You got to load. I said, I'm not loading. I'm not going anyplace. I'm getting married in 2 weeks. I'm taking a month off. You can't do that. I said, well, you just watch me. What I did. So it was only shortly afterwards I come back, and we get from our honeymoon. We took a month, went to California, and drove all over. And I come back and I loaded up, get out Chicago. They give me this load back for down around the Albany area, and they called in, and I said, you can't go home. I said, what do you mean I can't go home? This deal is getting sick and tired. I can't go home. I said, I've been gone 2 weeks now from my bride. This is not why I got married. You go home, you're going to be in trouble. I said, well, fine and dandy. I'm in trouble. So I got home, and this guy that was a manager in the gray van office had got the North American agency, and he'd wanted me to come and work by trucks with him. And so I decided I did. And they signed me a load. I told the office girl that she was our neighbor where we were living. And I says, tell them I'm not going, I'm all done. They come back, you can't quit. I said, you just watch me. You tell me I can't quit. There's no way you can keep me there. So I quit, and then started hauling for him, and stayed there a little over about 2.5 years, and things got to the point where things were a little bit too crooked for me, and I didn't like what was going on, and I finally told him one day, I'm out of here. And I had been renting a warehouse, and he took over that deal when our agreement was up, and he hired a couple other guys that started cutting in on me, and I said, I'm out of here. And I says, I'm going to start my own business. He said, well, you'll never make it. I said, well, no harm in trying, so.
So what year did you start the business?
54. Mm-hmm. I ran for 2 years with, from 2.5 years with him from 48. I started with Gray Van from 52 to 54. I worked with him, and we took 2 loads of GE equipment to California and back with stations out there. And I was making good money with them, but when the Hancock Field closed, they moved it to Sampson, made Sampson Air Force Base. And when I started my own business, I went over there, called on them to get business, and boy, pretty near got shot out of there. The guy says, I don't want to talk to you, see you, and get off this base. I says, I got a right to be on this base. I'm a veteran. I have a right to be here. And I have a right to get your business, part of your business. He says, "You're a thief and a liar." I said, "No man calls me a thief and a liar. I'll be back here in the morning, my lawyer, and find out what's going on." He says, "You come back here with a lawyer, you're in bigger trouble than you are right now." I said, "No, because I'm going to find out what's going on." He says, "Every one of these jobs, you padded the bills on them, charged us almost double of what the cost was." I says, "I'll be back in the morning and I'll bring my attorney." He said, "Don't bring an attorney." I said, "Well, then I'll bring my figures. What I got paid for these jobs, and you show me what was billed." Well, I'd pack 10 boxes, like 10 cubic foot, 3 cubic foot boxes. I'd pack maybe 8. He was putting a 1 in front of that mark, charging for 18 boxes.
This is what, your partner?
Yeah, well, the guy who was running for it.
Oh, okay.
And we down through that.
So that was fraud.
Yeah, and then I showed this, the guy, he had their bills out there, and I showed him, this is what I got paid. I got canceled checks to show this, and all of my billings of them. And he's took care of this, said it was all your doings. He says, "Let's forget the whole thing." I said, "What about business?" "Well, I don't think we can do business with you." I said, "There again, you're wrong. I'm going to go to somebody hire you if I don't get any business." So he finally started giving me some business, and then it wasn't that good, but it was still a little business. But then I was a little hot about it to begin with, and then when they closed the base, I had a couple of guys who was in charge over there, and I brought them back for the state fair and had them over the weekend. I started getting some real good business there. And the guy called me up. "We got 10,000 pounds. Can you handle this?" "Yeah, I'll handle it." I was with Wheat and Van Lines then, but I had to pick everything up, bring it in my warehouse, and get them to help haul it out, because I was making good money on it. I had 2 guys running, and we spent, so we finally ended up, I went back for the Greyhound after Wheaton again for a little over 2 years. Then it became United Van Lines, and was them 13 years, and we've been almost 50 with Mayflower.
All right, so as we stand here in 2017, just describe the company. Is it, how many trucks are you running and how many trailers? And then we'll, just to get an idea of where this ended up.
We have roughly about 20 storage trailers left that we use for storage. We used to take them out and put them in people's driveway who wanted to refurbish our house and not have it. But they told us, the county told us we couldn't do that anymore. We had to park them beside their house. Well, that took away everything there, because they could walk right out to their porch, put it in the trailer there and that. So we said, if we'd done that, we started to charge the people $60 for bringing it in, stored it in our yard, plus $60 for storage there per month. And it was just people, too much that couldn't afford it. Where this Amodio over in Weedsport got all these big containers. He comes over there, he planks their containers alongside their house, that's okay. I said, something's wrong here in Denmark. But my son had bought 50 of these Preston 151 trailers down in Jersey at an auction, and we used them a lot, and we used them a lot for storage from our warehouse. We got filled, and we're selling them off now because we got no use for them. We got a few. Well, we got a guy that's rented one now for 20 years, $60 a month. He says every month he comes in, pays us $60. He says, "I could have bought this thing
Many times over.
Yeah. We give the owner he works for Saves out there in Save Fire Boulevard, and we give, my son give them 2 of our trailers. They had them, he never charged rent for them, he told them to keep them. And he worked for them. He could have probably had another one put alongside.
Yeah.
And we still got some of them with storage in them, and we got a half dozen old cars we store them in and help. But we got about 15 other semis, modern semis, and 5, 6 tractors, and we got 2 owner-operators working for us all in with their tractors. And we just bought 5 new straight trucks, and altogether we got about 40 pieces of equipment and 2 warehouses. And our original place we've got a place, of course, those cookies are gonna lease it from us for 2 years, and they've got to go in and epoxy all the walls, ceiling, and floor for the cookies to be, even if they aren't storing cookies in there for their boxes that we have
clean.
stored up in their place right now. Because we've been buying boxes for them, and my grandson, he's made this deal with them, making about 7.8 cents per box, or on the dollar for buying these things, and then we got hauling them in for them when they need them, delivering them, and so making a few dollars with that there. And but we needed more space when we're doing all the work for this Embassy Suites there by the Destiny Mall. In fact, we'll probably still be delivering. We delivered 2 trailer loads there yesterday afternoon to them, and we probably got 40 more trailer loads to do. And we just finishing up today up to University. Been up there for 2 weeks now delivering and setting all their furniture up in those places. And got a big move out in Casanova, the carriage houses out there. They wanted, Joe, my grandson, wanted to bid hourly on the job. They said, no, corporate office says you gotta have a final bid. So he put a final bid in and got the job, and says it's probably going to be about $70,000 more if it had been hourly. So
it sounds like you developed quite a long and successful business. Another veteran that came home and did great things. Tell us, let's move to the reflection section of this. What are your thoughts about how your wartime service changed your life? How did it influence your life?
Well, I don't think it changed my life too much. I was always willing to work, and if the job was good, I'd done my best that I could for a dollar paid and for a dollar served. And I worked when I was a kid, picking up potatoes for 3 cents a bushel, and that was when I was 7 years old, planting cabbage for $1 a day, 8 hours. I never was afraid to work. I drove over 1 million miles in semis, load and loan work. I still help them out there now. I don't do quite what I used to do, but I do a lot of little odds and ends. It saves my grandson quite a bit. And in fact, yesterday I was a cab driver for about 100 miles because we went to deliver trailer load down to the Embassy Suites, and one of the wheels come off of the trailer just before we got to first turnoff there, Hiawatha Boulevard, and couldn't run it any further because if we did, we pulled off to the side there and had plenty of room for cars to get by, and of course they had their thing was starting to fill up out there for the some band for the new music place. And of course, fortunately, most of the sheriffs were out there and not anybody around us, so we had to go back and get another rig and get it down so we could get it. So I took Joe back, and I went down, picked him up, and brought him back, get another tractor. In the meantime, we had a East Syracuse trucking company come out that does a lot of our work, change our rear axle up so we could move the thing. And while we were doing that, we had two of our other straight jobs come on there and backed up. They was able to back up to the back side door and transfer everything off that trailer and get that down to the embassy suites. And we was able to get the trailer back out to our warehouse, our old warehouse, and try to get it repaired. And that strange things happened. In fact, that wheel with the tire was blown right off it. The wheel rolled down the highway over, leaned against the railing.
Lucky didn't. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You got lucky.
Somebody had ran into it. It had been a deal. And
all right. So just as we get close to the end here, let's somewhere along the line you got married. Just tell us a little bit about your wife's name and any and your children's name.
Well, my wife's name's Jewel Carter Brown. She lived in the city all her life. Her mother went to school with Kate Smith, and she was a star singing and dancing before Kate Smith was ever heard of. She sang for the Queen or the King of Belgium and some other notables that were in this country. She wrote a song for General Pershing when he come back, and the First Army came to Washington. Pershing was not there. In the meantime, she had moved out to Syracuse because her father had a carriage building business here in Syracuse. So Pershing came to Archival Stadium, requested her to sing his song for him.
And Archibald is at the university,
Yeah.
Syracuse University. Yeah.
So she could do anything, but she died quite a few years ago.
And then what are the names of your children?
One was Robert Brown. My first was Gloria Brown, Linda Gloria Brown. Second was Robert M. Brown. He passed away a year ago in May from cancer down in Florida. The second one was Randall M. Brown. And Bobby was the third one. My youngest son is Thomas J. Brown. I wanted to name him Thomas A. No, Thomas James. I wanted to name him James Brown. She says, I'm not going to have a kid named after Jim Brown. So
Jim Brown, the famous football player,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, from Syracuse University.
Then my youngest daughter, Sharon Brown, she lives in Florida. My youngest son, Tom, he's a judge now in Melbourne, Florida.
Oh, she had quite a few kids.
Yeah, he was attorney for the state's attorney office for 23 years, and a year ago he got appointed to judgeship. So,
Great. All right, as we come to the end of the interview, is there anything else we've left out that you think you'd like to add?
no, not to my knowledge. I missed a lot of these guys I was in service with, and still some of the ones that were in afterwards I've known, and they used to come to the reunion, some of the families there, but see, we don't have that anymore now, and I miss them, but I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't want to go through it again, but I wouldn't give you $1 million for what I've been through.
Yeah.
We deal with a warehouse out there. We built our old place 50 years ago and never thought we'd be out of there. But got to the point where we looked into expanding, but town and county had so many different stupid regulations, it wasn't worth it. So we bought this place up in Winter Road, which was made. They used to have a motorama in there. It was all full of dirt, and they ran SUVs and bikes and motorcycles jumping dirt and that. We bought that and spent $1 million. Fixed it up, new floor, and didn't have floor, just had dirt. We had to haul all that out. The guy that had it got into drugs and blew everything, and we got it. Never thought this place would be filled. We had to use the other old place. Printer filled that up again the last 2 months. And so my grandson is doing one tremendous job, and I don't know what we'd have done without him.
All right, well, it's quite a successful business. It's unusual to have a business that's been around that long.
Yeah.
And you're now in your third generation?
Yeah.
That's also quite an accomplishment. So, and I have just one final question for you. We always bring an American flag to the interviews because it's so important. And in your case, it's obviously very important to you because you want to describe the symbolism on the shirt that you wore today. And
Well, I had this friend of mine give this to me. He had it, and I seen it. In fact, he lives in East Syracuse, and I seen it. He had it hanging up, and I said, "Where'd you get that?" And he told me. I said, "You ever see another one like it?" He said, "No." He said, "I've been looking." I said, "If you ever do, get it for me." I said, "I don't care what it costs." And I come back from Florida next spring, and every Wednesday we have Wing Wednesday. I was there last night. He cooks up wings. He had onion roll there. We had shrimp at that, a couple of beers, and some guys come in, eat and drink and leave, and that. Usually about every other week I throw the guy at least a $10 bill in that, and help out the stuff, and all the beer cans he keeps and gets the nickel refunds, and we have a good time. And I come back about 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and the shirt was hanging up, and he says, "Here's your shirt." It was too small for him. And I says, "How much is it?" He says, "I told you, there's your shirt." That he give it to me. And as I've told people, I only wear it special days. And that's
what days do you wear that shirt?
I wear this basically on I have another one with all the battleships on it. I got off to Missouri when I was in Pearl Harbor a few years ago. And I wear them half a day, and then I'll switch. But I wear it Memorial Day, 4th of July, Armistice Day, which is Veterans Day, and Pearl Harbor Day. Mm-hmm. And I wore it at my son's wake. Mm-hmm. As I've told people, his love for this country, he has an eagle made by
Why don't you stand up so we can see the rest of the shirt?
He has an eagle made by a friend of his out of wood down in Florida. And he got the eagle there, his motorcycle, which he loved to ride, and the USA.
Mm-hmm. And the very, very last question, what does that flag mean to you when you see it?
Well, for being I tell guys I'm a freshwater immigrant, and then I swam the St. Lawrence in the summertime and skated across the wintertime when I was 3 years old. Some believe me, some don't. Mm-hmm. And when I see this flag, I have the deepest love in my heart for it. It's the greatest country in the world. And my son felt the same way.
Well, as the witness to war, You've traveled far and you've seen much.
Yeah.
And a grateful nation thanks you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate it.
Now, this fellow right here was our chief bosun mate. I can't remember his name, and this one here is Chief Gunner's mate Phillips. He was from Niagara Falls. Up there on the bridge, sitting right up there, one of these guys was a guy named Joe Gurgola or something like that from New York City. And this was right here is a twin 40 millimeter gun. That was my buddy's gun mount from West Virginia. Mine is exactly opposite on the starboard side of the ship, right, same location as on the bridge. But there's so many of them on there that have everybody, like I said before, they said to us, we pulled in, don't you ever go and paint this thing? And after 90 days at sea, never seeing land, it was nice to see land again and be sure that we got back. Well, that picture was given to us. Everybody aboard ship got one of these, and I don't remember who they came from, but it was a beautiful picture of it, and it's the way it's plowing through the water, it's just the way it was in real life. And we used to have the waves coming up over pretty near the whole thing. When we went under 2 waves, our whole slogan is, a destroyer goes under 2 and over 1. And we keep coming back up.